everyone. I wanted to come on here and just introduce this video. Today's video, I am interviewing my friend Nick. He was so kind to come on here and share his story with all of us, and I just hope it blesses you and encourages you. How about you introduce yourself to the audience and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, my name's Nick. I'm a 22-year-old Floridian. I born and raised here in Florida. I know I don't sound like it. My mom is from Michigan. My dad is from Polk County. So I have a deep Southern and a deep Midwestern accent mixed together. It makes me sound off-brand Irish. So at least I like to explain it. Either I've heard off-brand Irish, off-brand British, and a Minnesotan trying not to be a Minnesotan.
Oh.
All of them fit. The most recent was actually pretty fun. I was at Sun and Fun working, and I had this person come up to me, and they're like, "Are you Australian?" I'm like, "No, just Florida, Midwestern and Southern. It's just how it works." But yeah, I'm a pilot, and I'm working on my pilot licenses, so I can't just fly you if you ask me. I'm not there, but I can fly through a cloud. I can fly alone, and I can fly people. It's just I can't be paid for it just yet.
Okay.
I'm working on that part, and I can't just be. No one can just come up to me and be asked to pay. That's not how the rules work. End goal is missionary work and helping people in the middle of nowhere, and teaching as well. So we'll get more into that later.
Yeah. Yeah. How long have you been flying now?
4 years. So
Where's okay.
I guess it's almost 5 now. I started during COVID, 2020. The summer of 2020, we were getting everything set up. I did my medical certificates, all that stuff. Had my first, not flight training flight, but flight overall.
Okay.
Coming back from Michigan on a Allegiant Airbus. Great
Oh,
flight, by the way.
fun.
Got back from there. Should not have had chili and chili and what's it called, a potato before, but learned that lesson quick. But yeah, we flew back from Michigan, landed in trying to remember which airport. I think it was Orlando Sanford, the airport to the east of us. Drove back home, and my first flight training flight was a few months after that. And the only way I can really describe it is like surreal. Like it
Yeah.
was like, okay, yeah, this is what I like to do.
It's cool. Want to tell me about like your early life and for you to share as much as you're comfortable with?
Okay, so this might be a while.
No, yeah, take your
Um,
time.
I was born in 2002, and I had no immune system, like whatsoever. They called it, I think, Category 5 autoimmune. It was either 4 or 5. I don't remember which category. But it was a category of autoimmune deficiency. Basically, what happened was my mom had severe latex allergy whenever she was pregnant with me. So, because her immune system was compromised, I didn't get one. So, from that, I had no immune system specifically in my lungs until age 5. How that happened, it is a whole deeper story we'll probably get into later during it. Basically, put age 1 to 5, I had IV treatments once a month. Someone with a cold would come by, I'd be in the hospital. Someone had what they thought was allergies, hospital. Kind of like that TV show you ever watch, Parks and Rec. And they're like,
Okay.
straight to jail, straight to hospital. Okay, that was my childhood. But at least
So
till age
exhausting to your
5.
parents.
Yeah. So after that, but thankfully my dad was a teacher, so he had insurance. Hopefully, helped a little bit. It was a specialist situation, so
Yeah.
insurance is meh.
Right.
But we ended up after a while, got to age 5, and I just said get sick for a few months, and my parents were like, "What? Okay, he's not getting sick." So
Yeah.
we go to my specialist. His name was Dr. Rosenberg. I remember that name vividly. And he's like, well, that doesn't happen, but we'll test him to get blood tests back. And he's like, puts me up on his lap, and he's like, well, Nick, you're fine. It's
Aw.
you have an immune system. So I'm like, cool, okay. And he's like, so do you want to be a doctor like me when you grow up? And I'm like, no, I'll pray for people; they'll be healed. But Since then, my love of helping others kind of grew. My love of airplanes really started when I was about 8. Can't recall exactly why. I just always liked
Yeah.
looking at the airplanes and why they, even though being so heavy, could just fly. And then over time, I kind of connected the two. I was like, okay, how can I help people while flying? And that kind of grew throughout my middle school, high school age. So yeah,
Yeah,
excuse
that's
me.
cool. You mentioned like even at like 5, you had a fairly strong faith. So when would you say that you first came to Christ, and what was that like growing up with your relationship with God at that young age?
Yeah, so there's a deeper story with that, I think. So my parents say at age 2 I accepted Christ. Technically, yes, I was talking at 2. I don't know how. My parents were like, yeah. So at age 2 you accepted Christ. I was like, okay, cool, but I didn't know what that meant,
Mhm.
fully and
Yeah.
detailed. From like age 2 on, I knew the aspects of Christianity, the importance of it. Like our family always went to church.
Okay.
Um, my mom and dad were involved in ministry until a few other situations in the family happened, and etc. My grandpa has been a street pastor for like over 40 years, helping the homeless of Winter Haven.
That's good.
So it, growing up in the Christian home, it I kind of understood, but I didn't have like my own faith.
Right.
Um, so over time, I would say I was rambunctious as a kid. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't like defiant or anything. I was just rambunctious.
Yeah.
So the older I got, the more I realized, okay, I don't want to be this anymore. And around 2015 ish, I watched this video. What was her name? There's a pastor out there. I forgot her name, but she's like the biggest lady pastor out there. And she was preaching on spending 30 minutes in God's Word changes your life dramatically. I'm like, okay, well, I'll give it a shot. So, which I know that there's a lot of theology about lady pastors right now, but it
Right.
helps me still.
Yeah, no, I
So
think for my personal study, I think that God can use like women who are
yeah,
pastors, but I also recognize that there's a lot of controversy behind that.
yeah,
Um,
exactly, yeah.
but I feel like God can use whoever he's calling, and we might not always understand that calling
I
fully.
agree. I agree. So I watched her I guess online sermon, and
Okay.
that just clicked with me. I can't tell you why it clicked with me. It just did. So started Bible studying around 2015, and I mean like digging into how I want to do Bible study, everything. I ended up like going by SOAP method and using that, which
Yeah.
is scripture, observation, application, prayer. I ended up adding a C for context right
Okay.
after scripture, but
Yeah.
um, and
Which
over
by
time I just kept.
adding,
Sorry,
I
go
feel
ahead.
like when you add the C, you get more of the inductive study method.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So I go into like the detailed the verses around it, and then I go into how it impacted me, and then application to life. So I kind of go into the verses and the idea behind it is what I like to look into.
Yeah.
And then I started doing that and journaling, and I wish I eventually, if you want me to later today, I can show you all the notebooks. I have like piles of notebooks
Sure.
because I'm a note taker. So I have like page long Bible studies is what I do.
Yes.
Um, unless life gets busy, I want to get back to it, but
Right.
unless life gets busy, it's a daily thing for me usually. After that clicked, I felt closer and deeper, and it came to 2017. And my youth group was having a thing called the move. So it's whenever you go from middle school to high school. It's that transition in small group.
Yeah.
And it was like a summer sleepover event type thing. I guess I don't know what they other places would call it, probably like a lockout situation, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think up in my neck of the woods, we'd call it a lock-in because it's usually cold.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So so we go over there, and we we go to like a Christian camp that they rented, and Pastor Chris, who's now the head pastor of my church, he was the youth group pastor at the time. Um, he was like, okay, so he gave this sermon about like you gotta leave it at the cross and fully dedicate to Christ. That's what life is. That's what true salvation is found. It's letting everything go
Mm.
and just dedicating to Him. And that that clicked with me, and I was like, okay, that's what I need to do to get from Christian to devout Christian. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like that the scripture verse, glory to glory. Sorry, once glory to glory type scripture verse.
Yeah.
That idea of we never stop growing in our faith. Um, so when that clicked, I was like, okay, yeah, that's my next step. So that's when I say I really dedicated my life, and when I consider my true change per se.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had mistakes past, and we all have, but
Yeah. We all do.
yeah, exactly. But that's whenever I like truly cared more about my faith, and it was my faith, you know.
Yeah.
Eh,
That's when you were about 15, 20,
About so I
15,
don't know
16.
exactly what age you switch from middle school to high school, but that age.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
just thinking if you were trying to do some math, if you were born in '02 and that was 2017, so you'd be around 15?
about yeah, something like
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, somewhere around that. It was either 2015 or 2017. I can't exactly recall. I have a note somewhere in one of my journals, but
Yeah.
I think it was 2017 was like the big changing year for me. And
Okay.
2015 we had gone through a lot with like my grandparents and uncles and stuff that unfortunately passed away at that time.
I'm
It
sorry.
was kind of like
Listen.
an early. It's alright. It's life.
Yeah.
So it was like an early
Doesn't make it
part that
easy.
kind of pushed to that in a deeper way. I
Yeah.
think 2015 was more the whenever I truly transitioned. 2017, I just kept going deeper. Is what happened. So
That's
yeah.
cool. Yeah. So, at what point did you decide for sure that you wanted to be a pilot?
It's hard to say for sure. Because it was like ever since I was young and around eight
Yeah.
ish,
Okay.
I knew I wanted to have something with aviation.
Yeah.
Um, I think whenever it clicked that like missionary piloting was a thing,
Yeah.
that's whenever it was like, okay, yeah, I want to fly airplanes. Um, I think that's whenever it clicked, but I couldn't like really tell you an exact date or month or anything. But like somewhere around the 2008, 2009 range is like whenever
Okay.
that love of aviation just kept growing. Um, Partially because I was old enough to watch things like Top Gun by then. Partially because I went to a Sun and Fun, which is funny enough where I work now. Um, but got like seeing like how aviation has so many different aspects that
Yeah.
I think really just showed me, okay, yeah, I want to get involved with that. But when I was young, it wasn't really a question of what I wanted to do. It was more a question of how I wanted to do it and
Yeah.
how to get there. And
Mhm.
that has changed over time, but it makes more sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of Nate Saint?
Oh yeah, Nate Saint. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. He's a missionary pilot that I
Yes.
grew up hearing a lot about. So I was
Yeah.
wondering if he had any impact in your
Yeah.
thought
He
about it.
certainly did. He 110% did. And the other thing I mentioned Sun Fun. I mentioned like airplanes flying over my house. That was a part, but also Nate Saint. And also let me add a little context. So my mom runs a very small Christian private school now, and we'll get into that a little bit, hopefully. But that Christian private school is focused on the PACE program, Accelerated Christian Education PACE program. It's like little booklets that you go through, and each like 10 booklets you get to next grade level. So there was a part there in the booklets that they really delved into missionaries. and like that was the focus of your like reading study, was learning about missionaries.
Okay.
And I think that reading about Nate Saint, it was a hard story that I was like, okay, that's awesome. It's hard, but it's awesome type thing.
Yeah. His story
And
really stuck with me as a kid
reading
too.
about him, and then also there's a fictional book. It's still for sale. It's called North Amaroqvik or something like that.
Okay.
Amaroqvik, something like that. It's a fictional story about a missionary pilot, and he flies into the middle of nowhere. Airplane crashes, and he ends up basically surviving along with a wolf that he befriends,
Mhm.
and ends up finally getting to the people he was going to help. It was a really cool book. Like the the aviation in it, the story behind it. It's just like it's only like this big. It's a tiny book, but it's still
Yeah.
one of my like top 3 favorite books. Like
Aw.
Bible, that, and then I'm trying to think what else. That's probably my main 2 primary. But I unfortunately don't read a lot. I watch Edge Nap. But
I do a lot of audiobooks and podcasts.
yeah, I need to do that. The only podcast, you're welcome, Jordan, is If Then. I love the If Then podcast, but that's the
Yeah,
main one
it's a great podcast.
I've listened to.
I can link that down below for those who haven't heard it.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
Yes, yes. That's cool. So what kind of a becoming a pilot? That sounds like hard because it's
Yeah.
expensive and lots of tests and all of that. So what were some hurdles that you saw and how did you overcome those to be where you are now?
So there's a few. I'm gonna focus on probably 1 or 2 primary ones.
Yeah.
So of course finances. So I'm a teacher's kid. My mom is a teacher.
Yeah.
My dad's a teacher. Even my brother, teacher. We're a teaching family. Unfortunately, it's not talked about often. Teachers do not get paid enough.
No, no.
It's just straight up true. I understand with all that's going on politically that like, and homeschooling is awesome. I love homeschooling, and there's a place for that. But my dad's a public school teacher. He's a strong Christian public school teacher. My mom runs a very small Christian private school. That that's what I grew up in, and I love teachers and highly respect them.
Yeah.
That strain there, so we are like probably middle class, lower middle class family.
Mhm.
There's definitely a financial strain, and thankfully we had the ability to figure out the financial aid through a lot of discussions.
Nice.
And get enough funding to get it done. And I
Yeah.
still have, I'll put it this way, I still have like $500 in my account, and enough to get like 3 more flights done before I try to
Yeah.
quit for my commercial. That's where I'm at
Okay.
money wise. So money's
Yeah.
still a struggle.
I get that completely.
Yeah. But for me and my family, it wasn't a question of are we going to do this. It was a question of, well, how are we, and when are we gonna dive in fully type thing. So when I think I remember talking it over with my family, I'm like, are y'all okay going in debt with me on this? And they're like, yes, as long as you fly me to Bahamas later. I'm like, cool.
And if you can get into doing like commercial piloting, that pays well, even if it's
Yeah,
not what you
yeah,
want to do long term.
yeah. So commercial isn't my primary goal.
Yeah.
My primary goal right now is I'm working on my master's,
Mhm.
and I want to work as a professor, and
Okay.
do missionary work under the college.
Yeah.
So going towards that, that'll be enough to pay it back over in that like a few years, and also being a professor for like 5 years, you get student loan breaks.
Yes.
So that's my goal right now, is working as a professor. I love teaching as well. um,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean it's in my blood. So it's so it's not I just don't feel like I want to have the responsibility of 300 people
Right.
flying from point A to point B. I'd much
And
rather,
you've got time to decide if that's something you want later in life.
maybe we'll see, but that definitely right now, commercial is not my end goal.
Mhm.
My end goal is helping others and teaching others,
Okay.
and that's the main plan. But we'll see if or how that changes. But yep.
I mean, you're still in your early 20s. A lot can change even in the next
Yeah,
10
exactly,
years.
exactly. Yep.
So, what was the other hurdle you were going to talk about other than financial?
So the second one's a bit deeper. During my instrument training, I lost a friend to an airplane crash.
No.
Actually, specifically, one friend, one acquaintance. And I think that hit deeper than I even realized whenever it first happened.
Yeah.
So I at that time I was the head of safety team of my flight school. So the fact that that happened and I was trying to prevent it and I could see it happening before it that hit deep, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so looking back, I it was something that happened and needed to happen. Unfortunately, there's still a problem with some airports around here in Polk County. Um, Not really Lakeland. Lakeland Airport's awesome, but I love the city of Fairhaven. They need to fix the airport. It's just that accident happening. It really showed me the gravity of flight training.
Yeah.
How small mistakes can compile and hurt people. Um, and I think that that focus of safety was necessary not for me, but not only for me, but also the whole flight school. Um, so it was a hit. Um, I still pray for the families daily.
Yeah.
It was a rough one because it was two really young people, like younger than me type age.
Right.
Um, so I missed them. They were good people, very smart people. It just impacted in a different way. I knew exactly the whole information before it went to the news because I was the head of safety team and
Yeah.
I got home and I wasn't 100% sure until I hit the news. And then when I hit the news, I just cried with my family and we were like, it happened, you know?
Right.
And yeah, it was a thing. It took me a lot of pastoral talking to pastors and also a lot of prayer to get through. But once I got through it, I understand the deepness of it all now, and I celebrate their life every March 7th in honor of them. But yeah, 3/7 is my personal version of 9/11. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
I understand 9/11 was a lot worse. Making that clear.
Right.
Yeah,
But
but
it's
it's
so hard.
just seeing that happen from the pilot perspective, and it was hard. But I'll put it this way: we started flight training in private, and we were told you will probably lose a friend. It's going to happen. It's the risk of flight training. We didn't expect it to happen that quickly. Um,
Right.
Usually it's you're in the airlines or you have like thousands upon thousands of hours, and then something weird happens, type thing.
Mm.
But don't let that make you scared of flying. Flying is extremely safe. This is a very rare case. But, um,
Yeah, I think it's hard, especially when people are learning too. It's
yeah,
a risk that they take when they are learning. It doesn't make it any easier though. Um, I'm
yeah.
sorry you had to be involved in that in the way you were. That's gotta be really hard.
It was. It took me some time to process it. It affected my flying for a good
Yeah.
3 months afterward.
Okay.
But once I processed it, everything started to get a little kind of back to normal. I mean, I still miss the friends. I was the one that waved to them and they waved back before they took off. You know, that hit still today. But yeah, I still miss my goose. If again Top Gun reference, but but it was an experience, and it's something I think I had to go through to know how to process it in case
Okay.
something happens under me being a professor in the future or me being a missionary in the future.
Yeah.
So I know God has a plan through it all, and I have met with the families after, and they're good people, and I'm glad that they're taking it as well. They have. There's a scholarship in their honor, and I'm very
Okay.
happy to see that. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Did that impact your faith at all, seeing that?
not really my faith, weirdly enough. It more impacted me mentally, not really
Mhm.
spiritually.
Okay.
So I I remember talking with my pastor again, Pastor Chris, same pastor.
Yeah.
um, I remember talking to him, and I told him it feels like I'm swinging from deep depression to completely fine. It just keeps going back and forth and back and forth. He said that's completely normal, and you eventually it will balance out and end up being less of a pendulum swing and more of a way to respect them and honor them.
Yeah.
And I figure out I've understood my way of respecting and honoring them by doing the best I can as a pilot.
Nice. Yeah. I've got a furry friend down here who's playing with my game.
Uh, what type of fairy friend?
My cat. Hold
Oh,
on.
nice.
She'll cooperate. Come here, Hobby.
I got a dachshund. If you hear him in the background, he's an old fellow. He's like 12 years old or something.
Yeah, this is my hobby.
Hello.
She's a little pain in the butt some days, but
I wish I could
it
pet her through
knows.
the screen. I can't, but
We rescued her back in December,
it's
so
awesome. Yeah.
yeah.
I grew up around pets a lot. I've had so many dogs, cats, birds, and rabbits I can't
Oh
count.
wow. Were you guys able to have pets when your immune system was so compromised?
Yeah, so weirdly enough, we grew up around rabbits and everything.
Okay.
I think that was maybe a part of the reason. Well, I don't know about before five. I have no
Yeah,
memory before 5 years old. Um, but
the best.
yeah, but but as I can remember, I always had a pet around us. I think we
Mm,
did have pets even when I was five.
okay.
Because we had a golden lab whenever my brother was young.
Okay.
So I pets
Yeah.
have always been a part of my life, and it might have easily been a part of the reason why I don't have as many allergies as most people, even though I didn't have an immune system when I was young. There's been studies that show if you grow up with a pet, you have less allergies. So
Interesting.
yeah, it's actually really cool
Maybe
research.
that's why I'm allergic to the world.
but yeah, so I grew up around like rabbits, fish,
Okay.
dogs, cats. I mean, we
Um,
we tried to rescue multiple birds. It was very much a Bluey copycat situation every single time. But yeah,
yeah. So I want to rewind a little bit. You mentioned your mom had a really bad latex allergy.
right.
How is she doing with that now? Latex is a lot
Um,
less common than it was, but it's
yeah,
still
yeah.
around.
So how do I explain this? So in the '90s to the early 2000s, latex allergy was not even understood.
Mhm.
Um, People would get highly allergic to latex and they would just label something else on them. They would say, oh, your immune system's shutting down because of cancer or something. That would
Right.
be what was the thing.
Mm.
They had no idea it was a thing back then.
Yeah.
That has changed, thankfully. I was born in the first latex free hospital room in Polk County, Florida.
Wow.
That shows you the difference from first latex free hospital room to most hospitals being latex free
Yes.
now. So thankfully it's not as present. There's still times whenever it affects her. If we're painting, we tell her to get out of the house because if
Okay.
not, the fumes from the paint will affect her.
Yeah.
If we're spray painting, we do it outside the house. If we are doing anything to do with latex, it's not near her. because
Yeah.
she will swell up and be sick for like a week still. It's
Oh,
still an allergy. Thankfully, that hasn't happened often because we've learned to live really well without latex.
yeah.
Um,
My
we
home
just have
is,
to be cautious of like whenever we paint a room or do remodeling or something, we just gotta
yeah,
balance our vacations with that type thing.
yeah. My home is mostly latex free because I have a very mild latex allergy.
Yeah,
It's like to the point where it makes my throat itchy, but nothing more than that.
yeah,
But yeah, so I sympathize with your mom, and I
yeah,
am sounds
yeah,
very unpleasant.
yeah. It's a thing. I'm very thankful it's become less popular than it was in the
Yeah.
early 2000s. It still is one of those allergies. I'm just thankful that the medical community has realized, okay, this is a serious issue,
Hmm.
and people are starting to like catch on. Um,
Yeah.
like I can talk to people and be like, yeah, my mom had severe latex allergy, and everyone's like, oh yeah, yeah, we've seen it. Type thing. It's not a um,
Yeah.
wait, what's that type question. So
Right.
it's it's good to see that.
Yeah. So did your mom's latex allergy impact her new career teaching at or starting the private school?
Not really. No.
No.
So she started as a dental hygienist.
Yep.
So she still has the license kept up just in case as a backup type thing.
Yeah.
But going from dental hygienistry, where latex was everywhere back in the early 2000s, to teaching, it's been a lot better on her. There's still times when, like, if you do acrylic paints, you have to stay away from it.
Yeah.
But teaching wise, it's been a lot less of an issue ever since she
Right.
started teaching, and it is a deeper thing with that. So my mom's calling has always been to teach and run a school.
Okay.
Um, and she kind of didn't realize that until later in life. But whenever that clicked, she started running a homeschool program, like a tutorial type setup,
Okay. Yeah.
in our house. And then that slowly grew to a small Christian private school. And its main focus is not the normal Christian private school, like rich people come here type thing. It's not that. Its focus is to help kids with mental disabilities and kids that just can't handle the normal public school system. It's much more of a ministry than it is a school.
That's really cool.
Um, it's she's helped over 300 kids ever since the early 2000s when it started.
Yes.
Yeah, your kid can come to our school, and if you are a dedicated parent and your kid is dedicated to it, or you help your kid be dedicated to it, we don't care what label you have, you will leave with a full high school diploma, not a ESE diploma.
That's cool.
And that's our mission, is to really help people that society would consider quote unquote not normal find a normal place,
Yeah.
and really realize that they are normal, just under God's word instead of under what society thinks they are. So,
Understand.
yeah,
Yeah. I think that's really needed. I feel like there are so many people who get pushed through the school system and don't have that support. It's really encouraging to hear that your mom is wanting to help these people to actually have just that great experience of learning so that they can
yeah,
become good members of society. And it's needed more than the public school system can often give. And nothing wrong with the public school system, but
yeah.
there's a lot of gaps.
It's just what we've seen in 15 years of running the school, and as a school. Before that, it's been like 20 years because of the fact
Yeah.
that it was a homeschool before that. But 15 years of running this as a school, we've seen the unfortunate fact that these kids can learn completely fine, but they just need more one-on-one care,
Yeah.
instead of like a big classroom that pushes them away if they don't want to learn a certain way.
Yeah.
And we've learned to meet kids where they're at, and teach them how they like to be taught. And once that hits, it's pretty easy to find really smart kids that society thinks are not smart.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful to have grown up in such a diverse environment as that.
Yeah. My mom did a similar thing with me when I was growing up because I have pretty bad dyslexia, and it took
Yeah.
her several years to figure out how to teach me how to read, and I can
Yep.
read now, thank goodness, but it takes that one-on-one discipline for sure, like
Yep.
one-on-one working together.
Yep.
So that's
It's
really
just
cool.
caring for the person where they're at type thing. And
Yeah.
I actually have a friend that I grew up with. She had dyslexia as well, and she's doing completely fine and loves reading. Like we
Yeah.
could never get her to read, but now she's reading all the time. She has two kids, and she just
Aw.
absolutely loves reading.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I've
it's
learned that
just cool
people
to
with
see that
dyslexia,
that shift.
I have found that a lot of people who are dyslexic enjoy reading even if it's hard for them, and they can get a lot of joy out of it. Um, and I think with the rise of like audiobooks and ebooks where you can change the font and the
I agree.
background, that's made reading so much easier for so many people.
True. Yeah, the technology has really helped a lot over the years.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you want to touch on any other subject? I know there was also, you mentioned your brother in your the thing you sent me, and also your dad. What's going on with your dad?
Yep. So I'll start with my brother because his situation was before my mom's and I's.
Yeah.
So my brother was born in the late '90s.
He's
He
my
was
age.
1997, and he and he was born straight up dead. Like he had APGAR 0. If you don't know what that means, it's no sign of life. Period.
Okay.
Um, so a little back before he was born, my mom was like, something's wrong, and the doctors just didn't listen to her. There seems to be an issue with doctors not listening to my mom. I don't know what it is, but so doctors didn't listen to her a few times, and eventually she's like, um, she goes to the hospital, and they're like, yeah, so your baby doesn't have a heartbeat. Do you want
Mhm.
to like abort the baby, or what do you want to do? And she's pulled the doctor by a necktie, like pulled him down to her, and she's like, you will make this baby live because I've been here for the past 2 weeks and you've done nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, okay, we'll do it. So emergency C-section later, he was born APGAR 0, and they started the child defibrillator, did nothing. Adult defibrillator, did nothing. Defibrillator, a baby elephant, did something. Went from APGAR 0 to APGAR 1. He still has a heart murmur, which is like a tiny hole in his heart because of that.
Yeah.
Um, Both me and him have slight asthma. It's a thing. um, but the doctor was like, so he, I can make him live, but the issue is he will be brain dead. He's
Mm.
gonna be in a wheelchair the rest of his life. And she's like, we'll see about that.
Yeah.
So my brother gets up, ends up going up to be a little older, and he usually didn't walk normally. It was
Okay.
just something we noticed, but he ended up running back and forth and chasing a ball completely fine.
Mm.
So he goes up to the doctor, and it was just like a normal check-in. And the same doctor who helped with the delivery was like, "You realize he had no hip, like
Huh.
straight up, no hip. Like so, hips normally
Wow.
do this, right? They
Yeah.
look like that. This was his hip
Oh,
whenever he was
wow.
born. So one thing about my family, a little background: we're Assembly of God. We grew up Assembly of God. So
Okay.
my grandpa was Assembly of God pastor. So he
Oh,
would just like preach while holding my brother.
yeah.
And so he goes to the doctor, and he's like, so let's take another x-ray. It went from this slowly to this. From bone to bone to cartilage and wicking. And the doctor's like, we've never seen this, but you know what? He's a scrappy. That's him. So my brother now has a pre-med degree. He teaches with my mom. he's smarter, or as smart, if not more smart than me, which hopefully is a good thing. I don't know how smart I am, but he's the one that I'll sit down and just randomly joke about quantum physics with type
Oh, fun.
thing. But he he's awesome. He's the greatest brother ever, and so yeah, that's his backstory. Going to my dad now. He's been great. He had multiple myeloma in 2019 though. So he originally got diagnosed with it. It was a so there's this thing called like M spike and a thing called kappa light chains. Both of them show you how much multiple myeloma is in you. It's like an after effect of the platelet cells giving things off. My dad was at like a obscene amount of both. Simply put, he was at somewhere in like I forgot the exact number, but it was like 1,800 in the kappa light chain scale. But context, it's normally like 0.5 to 1.5.
Okay.
He was that aggressive. Got his first dose of medication after a lot of prayer, and he went down from that to about 800. And the doctor said that was a really quick, really good response. We're gonna put you through stem cell therapy.
Okay.
So stem cell therapy is they take out everything and rip back your stem cells.
Yeah.
He could use his own blood and everything. It worked. So that's what we did. Excuse me. So he got stem cell therapy done through a process called apheresis. It's kind of like dialysis, except for much more fancier. And he stayed in the Hope Health at Moffitt in Tampa, which I highly recommend if you have cancer, go to Moffitt. So he went over there, stayed in the Hope House for a few months, and then he left the Hope House probably 80% of himself. Came back to our rental home at the time because we were completely cleaning out our own house. We got new floors and everything because we didn't want anything in the carpet getting some. So we were in the rental house at the time, and then the Hope House closed like 2 weeks after because of COVID. That's how close we were.
Wow.
I wasn't allowed to see my dad for a month there because they knew COVID was coming back in September, and it
Right.
closed in about October. So my dad ended up being quarantined with the rest of the world. And we just had like family togetherness time all together in the middle of a pandemic. In some ways, it was actually a pretty good thing for our family. We had the ability to just relax and talk as a family and process everything
Yeah.
without the extra added distractions of extended family members or anything. He recovered, he did better. Over time, he's gone from that high of number to normal range now. It's completely normal
Nice.
range, zero M spike. Right now, he's in what's called maintenance, but there's no cancer in him. They just keep infusions in case. He's doing amazing. He's teaching and everything. He loves his job as an ag teacher, and he's doing amazing. Basis of the story. I'm still working on a book. Okay, it'll come out soon. But
When it comes out, let me know and I will link it for you.
I will. It'll just probably take a good 10 to 20 years. So
Okay. If YouTube is still around in 10 to 20 years, and maybe between now and then we'll touch base again.
yeah, I'm sure. I see you almost daily on the community Discord page. So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. For those who don't know what that is, we are part of a community that follows the Blimey Cow YouTube page. We are paid members of them, and that's how we got connected. We met playing Survivor the first season last year in 2020.
It was intense. It was super intense.
It was intense. It was very intense. We got very close without knowing each other's real names.
So I think everyone figured it out when we reached Final Four.
They made it a little easy to figure you out.
Yeah,
I feel like
that's
I
the
made it
only
a little
person to
harder.
mention Big Dog on the whole community. So
I feel like I was a little better at keeping my name a secret, but
You did really well. You did really well.
the games we play there are fun.
For those that don't know, it was me and her were like number ones in the game.
Yeah.
Started out she was my number two, and then she became my number one later on in the game because I realized our strategies aligned a lot better than my original
Mhm.
number one. So
Which worked out really good for me
yeah, exactly.
because you were my number one. But I was really glad actually with that game we were able to work together to do something really sweet for another person who was not on our team at all and
Yeah,
allow them to win. I thought
that was a
that
cool
was probably
experience, and
the coolest thing was just seeing not only the way you were being Christ-like towards this person, because we could tell that they were going through a lot,
yeah,
but also just seeing what God was able to do in their life because of it, and the growth I've seen in them since we played the game together.
yeah.
Yeah.
I still think Jordan would have 110% won if he made the final. It would have been a battle
You
between me and him, but
would have. Yes. Yes. When do you graduate with your master's?
yeah. So it's gonna be next spring, May 2026. It's looking like. Um,
Party.
yeah, yeah. So the interesting thing about that. So I graduated high school in 2020, which like most people who graduate high school in 2020, I did not get to walk.
Right.
Yeah. So I had a drive-through graduation. Um, so
Sounds
yeah, it was a thing. It was an experience. So I had the drive-through graduation, and then I've worked on my associates and bachelors, and I couldn't walk for my bachelors because of the fact I had the flu. So
please let him walk for his
right,
master's because he'll probably be his
so
last
I don't
chance.
care how sick I am. I'm walking for my masters.
Wait,
I'm going
unless
to
you're gonna go
Lynchburg,
for your
Virginia to walk. That's
unless you decide to go for your PhD or something, but if that's the case, that's a
yeah.
whole nother can of
I don't
worms.
plan to yet. I might in the future. I don't plan to yet, but
Okay. That's cool. So you've been really busy since high school.
yes, indeed.
When did
Flight school. So in high school, I got my Eagle Scout.
Okay.
Um, After that, I had flight school focused, and then flight school focused, and then about instrument. Around instrument time, I started looking for a job,
Yeah.
and I just felt God keep calling me, go to that museum in Lakeland, the Florida Air Museum in Lakeland. I'm like, okay. So I ended up going over there, and I've been working there for about 2.5 years. It's the same company as Aerospace Air for Excellence and Sun and Fun. Highly recommend it. Coming to Sun Fun if you ever can. It's a bunch of fun. Crazy, but fun. I love where I work. It's a great place to make connections. It's a great place to have an impact on people and help people. I really like meeting all the new people that come to air museums. Like, I don't expect to one day meet the person who flew the F-14 that is at our museum, but he just randomly walks in one day. And I'm like,
It's
wait,
so
you flew
cool.
our F-14? And he's like, yes, I did. I'm like, that's awesome.
That is so cool.
Yeah, yeah. Like so, there's small things like that. I had the pleasure of meeting Lieutenant Colonel George Hardy. He was a original Tuskegee Airman.
Okay.
He's 99 years old. I met him the
Wow.
not last Sun Fun, but the Sun Fun before that, and he was just a pleasure. It was great to meet him. So cool. So just the small things like that. I
Yeah.
like to say it's really about the people over there, getting connections to meet new people, and that's a cool thing.
That is
Um,
cool. And I'm sure it helps you with networking
yes,
too, as far
yeah,
as what you're doing with your flying.
yeah. So thankfully, it has helped quite a bit. I've made some connections for my future career plans, and pretty good into flight schools in the future
Nice.
for teaching and stuff. But
That'll be cool.
we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
I'm not too stressed out about that yet until I get my master's done. But
Hey, and by then you'll have all of your licensing finished, hopefully.
yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
so
How
I don't know
much?
about flight instructor license or anything like that yet, but I will have my ground instructor. and
Okay.
I will have a commercial done by then, no
Okay.
question. So
Yeah.
I will be able to teach ground courses and will be able to fly professionally.
Nice.
But to the extent of like CFI, CFII, it's a gigantic program you have to go through to teach flying
Okay.
specifically. So I can teach the ground parts of flying in the future, very soon,
Yeah.
hopefully in the future. It's just the actual flying.
Right.
that there's a lot that goes into that, and I plan to get that done after I start working as a professor in the future. But yeah.
Okay. That's cool. I am assuming that flying an actual airplane is a bit different than flying on a flight simulator on a computer.
You would be surprised how similar it is.
Okay.
I'm honestly, it is very surprisingly similar. So we
Okay.
actually use high grade simulators to train in a lot of the time. Instrument rating, you're in a simulator most of the time.
Yeah.
It's a FAA approved $80,000 simulator, but it's a simulator. um, yeah, no, you'd be very surprised. I like to tell people if you can get Microsoft Flight Simulator like 2020, that newest one that came out,
Yeah.
you learn to take off and land on that thing like crazy and you get consistent at it. I mean, you could potentially save lives. And that's my
That's
goal.
cool.
You know,
That's really cool.
if you're the only one that has been on a simulator in a plane of 300,000 people and everyone is knocked out, you could land it.
Yeah.
And it is surprising.
If you can keep your cool.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can stay chill and think it's a video game, you can land it. And it really surprised me how similar that is. Actually, simulators are usually harder
Okay.
than real flight because you have no response and no feeling.
Right.
And I say harder. The response is similar. It's just you have no feeling with it.
Right.
And even full motion flight simulators, they're just a different level of feeling. So it's not the same.
Mhm.
I like to say if you're going for flight training, or if you are going, even if you have a fear of flying,
Mhm.
jump on the simulator, get used to it, have fun with it. Do barrels, I don't care. Have fun with it. Try to land it. Because it will take that fear of flying away because you know how it works. And it
Yeah.
will also really help you to understand the basics of landing a plane. Let me explain a little bit of nerdiness here.
Yeah.
Um,
Go ahead.
so we have a full motion flight simulator at the Florida Air Museum. It's a P-51 Mustang. It's a World War II era. It's based on that. It's a new simulator, but based on a World War II plane. Look up the P-51 Mustang if you haven't. It's super cool. That plane, though, is super hard to land. It just is. If you try to land it like you would any other plane, it's gonna bounce. If you try to get all the energy out at the wrong time, it will sink and crash. It's hard to land.
Um,
But of all the people who have landed it first try, I'm one of the few. Um, of all the people who landed it first try, it's usually the like surprisingly like young kid around like 10 to 12 years old who has been on the simulator or played video games all their lives.
yeah. I can
and and they
totally
just
like that.
like click in and I'm like, okay, here's one suggestion, and then they just plan it perfectly. And I'm like, okay, cool. It's either them or people who have actual had training in similar aircraft. And those two people are usually the ones I can land in. And it's really cool to see that dynamic of learning through simulators and seeing how that actually works. But yeah,
It's
it's just
cool.
one of those small surprising things.
Was there anything else we didn't cover that you wanted to cover?
And in the list here, you mentioned, did you ever find yourself angry at God? I can't recall if I was ever like fully angry at him, but I have two instances in my life that really, I think, were defining moments for me that kind of connect with that. First one is I had a lot of doubt. Like I played with, is there really a God out there? Type
Yeah.
questions. The more I dug into it, the more I realized that thought just didn't make sense to me.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, science supports more that there is a God than there isn't. And again, that gets into a really deep debate.
Yeah, but I mean, it's what you found through your own research, and that's what you believe in. I think
Yeah,
my video before this one was talking about what do you believe, and
yeah,
asking those hard questions so that you can understand your beliefs as you go through those times in life where you're
yeah.
doubting.
That the one thing I find really interesting is either way the spectrum you go. If you're a full blown atheist, there's faith.
Mhm.
You're gonna have faith in The fact that there's nothing. If you're a full-blown Christian believer, and you gotta have a little bit of faith. You have to have faith that there is a God out there and He cares for you. It goes back to Hebrews 11. Faith is the evidence of things unseen, things hoped for. That verse really clicked, and I think that there's a point in my life I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stop doubting, and I had to write it down. Like I'm done doubting. And whenever that hit, I think that was a big turning point. The second one, and this is much later in life, was my dad's diagnosis. I get the call over the phone, and we had already heard the possibility of a diagnosis, but went for a second opinion.
Right.
And I get a call from my dad and mom, and they're like, "Yeah, it's cancer," and I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
So I run to my room, and in our family, we hang our clothes around the doorway. That's just what we do. It's like right on the doorway all the time. So I took all the clothes off my doorway. My god sister, she was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Not right now, okay?" Oh, my god sister's the one I was talking about that has dyslexia.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm like, "Not right now, okay?" So I throw all the clothes down. I run in my room, close the door behind me. I get on my knees on the edge of my bed, and I'm like, "I don't know what you're doing, God. I just don't know." And I just cried. It wasn't really a prayer. It was a pleading, per se, which I know is like the most true prayers.
Yeah.
But it was just like sitting there crying. But there's a song, "Thy will be done." That song, it was really popular at that time. So I heard that song, and that song clicked in my head, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going or what's happening, but Lord, your will be done.
Yeah.
And after that, a weird peace came over it, and it was just, I never cried or was angry with God about my dad's diagnosis or anything like that after that. It was just, we'll get through this. And there's a weird peace over all of us during that time that we didn't really realize till later, of what ended up being our family motto of God's got this. And He's got this because we've got this because we got God.
I love that motto.
So, of course, the short version is God's got this, but just keeps going.
Yeah.
That will probably end up being the title of the book. I don't know. We'll see. That ended up being our family motto, and it just, we just kept going, and didn't really think about it until much later what all we went through.
Okay.
And then once we got there, it was like, wow, that happened.
Yeah.
Again, that's why I feel like there needs to be a book about it, because there's so much leading up and after it that it's been kind of like a hit the ground running type of feel.
Right.
Of course, we're calm down now, and it's not as fair as it was back then.
Right.
But looking back, I don't see the fear or the disappointment or anything like that. I just see the fact that my dad was faithful to it all. Like, he was strong in his faith and he kept praising God. I see the fact that my mom was there for him throughout the whole time and kept running the school in the middle of COVID. The fact that my brother, who again just finished pre-med, was there to explain everything and didn't really hit him till later, but he was able to like calmly explain, okay, this is what's happening with our dad.
Yeah.
And the fact that I could just like survive senior year of high school and AA degree. I graduated my AA degree at the same time I graduated my high school degree.
That's the way to do it.
And I'm like, so how I survived those last few classes, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I graduated with like a 3.85 AA degree.
Yes.
I don't know how it worked. I only got like 3 B's in 3 classes, and I'm like, what?
That's really good.
I mean, I look back and I'm like, I don't know how it worked, but it worked. And I just know it was God's got this, got it through it,
Yeah,
you know. So that's the only way I can really explain it.
that's cool.
Yeah,
I think that's such a great like motto for your family, like God's got this,
yeah,
and it's a great reminder for all of us because there's so much uncertainty. Like we're past COVID, thank goodness, but there's so much uncertainty within our political landscape
yeah.
and within the world around us. There's so much uncertainty that is that great reminder that God's got this, even though we don't
Mhm.
understand how He's got this. And I think that's really great to be able to see.
That there's some really interesting things whenever you read through the Bible. I like to say, the Book of Revelation scares a lot of people, and if you read through it, it's not that shouldn't be that scary. But if you read through it, you see God's protecting His people. God is caring for His
Yes.
people. Sure, all this crap is going on in the world, but God is caring for His people.
Yes.
Um, I'm not at all saying we're in the Book of Revelation. We have no idea, but
Yeah, I don't know when it's happening, but it's
yeah, no
happening.
idea. Um, but all I'm saying is, through it all, God is still there caring for His people, and I
Yeah,
think that's the actual intended purpose of the book that a lot of people forget.
that was cool. Yeah. Just one more thing I wanted to touch on. You mentioned very briefly, like half an hour ago, that you guys go to an Assemblies of God church. Have
Yes.
you guys always been Assemblies of God, or have you gone more towards the charismatic side because of a lot of the health issues your family had?
Right. So I like to consider ourselves pen, uh, Baptist, Baptist, like two
I've
exact
never heard that
opposites.
one before. It's pretty good.
We are a very Baptist family. But my grandpa was a pastor at Assembly of God Church for many years. My mom and dad grew up in Assembly of God, and I grew up in Assembly of God. But we at a young age didn't really commit to one church until later.
Yeah.
We did a lot of church hopping from uh, very strongly conservative preach politics Assembly of God to a very moderate Assembly of God
Yeah.
to straight up non-denominational.
Yeah.
And we did a lot of church hopping there. Eventually, my home church now is actually a non-denominational, very Baptist preaching type. Actually, split off from a Nazarene church,
Oh,
as type church. But I still am on the legal board for a charismatic non-denominational church. Like,
that's cool.
so it's like for my family, it's less a focus on only one aspect of the denominations and more every denomination has its focus.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
for example, the Catholics are the nerds. They are history nerd brothers. Um,
Them and the Eastern Orthodox.
same, yeah. Eastern
Yeah,
Orthodox are history nerd brothers and
for
sisters.
sure.
Just a slightly different part of history.
Yeah.
We have our Lutherans, which like really care about procedure and really focus on like the importance of God and the details type thing.
Yes. Yes.
We have the Assembly of God, which really focuses on connection of God to each person
Mhm.
directly, and then we have non-denominationals to like fill in the gaps.
Yes.
Um, so um, my my big view on denominations is I don't care if a Christian is like Orthodox, Catholic, even Messianic Jew.
Mhm.
Well, brothers and sisters,
Yeah.
I will go to your church if you invite me because it's awesome.
Yeah.
I love seeing the diversity of the churches. Yeah, I did grow up Assembly of God. I do pray in tongues, just personally in quiet time, but I'm not like I'm not gonna push anything on anyone or anything like that. I'm not
So-
charismatic for uh, I'm not TV preacher charismatic, if you get what I mean.
Yeah. Totally get that.
Yeah. I am Baptist. So that's me.
I love that church. That's great. It sounds like we had some civil, like slightly different. I grew up more of the conservative, evangelical free, and
Yeah,
then I really embraced the more charismatic churches as I got older. And currently, I go to it's a non-denominational church that was Baptist with an Assemblies of God pastor. It's fun.
that's cool. Yeah,
So I think you'd enjoy my
yeah,
church.
yeah. That sounds like a fun church. Yeah,
It is. Great music, great teaching. It just,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
thank you for coming on. Is there any final words before we hop off?
I just want to say thank you for your time, and
Thank
thank you for
you.
asking questions. I like sharing, and I
Yeah,
I've always said I'm not someone who pushes my views on other people. I'm someone, if you ask questions, I'll answer them.
yeah,
That there's one thing I want to leave about myself, especially in my work life, my how I really show Jesus to others in my life.
yeah,
There's a early church preacher. I could not tell you his name. I don't remember. But he he preached that we should always share the gospel, but rarely use words.
yes,
I feel like a lot of Christians out there either use too many or too less words. There,
yes,
there's a happy medium, and for me personally, what I've found is that happy medium is if you ask questions about my views, my faith, or even my family background or anything, I'll tell you. It
yeah,
doesn't bother me, but don't expect me to straight up like yell at you for believing differently either, because I'm not gonna do that. Like, that's not happening. But I think that's something the church has some problems with every once in a while is they get
yeah.
like too involved in politics and social warfare per se,
Mhm.
instead of just
There's a
caring and
balance there for sure.
yeah, caring and actually being the church. So sometimes being the church is simply doing good at your job where you're at,
Yep,
and sometimes it is helping your neighbor who is just needs food because they're going through a rough time or something.
yep.
And sometimes it is sharing your faith in the middle of a street corner. It depends,
Mhm.
you know.
Or in the parking lot at work.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's where I want to end off is find your way to share your faith and find a way to use words wisely in a
Yeah,
way that doesn't like push that you hate certain people or hate certain groups. Instead, show that Christ is love and truth, and that's an important thing to me.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, thank you, Nick, for sharing.
yeah,
I really appreciated getting to hear your story more, and I am just so thankful that you were willing to be the first one to come along this journey with me. And thank you so much. Thank you once again for being able to share your story. It would mean the world to both Nick and I if you would just like, comment, and share this video. Thank you for spending the time you spent today watching this video. And if you made it all the way to the end, consider subscribing. I make videos every other week. I would love to be able to continue to share other people's stories, my own story, and topics that will encourage your faith so that you can have a faith that is growing and a faith that is vibrant. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below and I will make sure to respond to those. So thank you. Have a nice day. To read, especially learning the
exactly.
hello.
Okay, cat attacking you again.
Oh, did you want up? I usually kick her out of my office when I'm recording for this reason.
It's all right.
Cat. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.